Hello everyone, and welcome to Conversations at Hub101.Earth. My name is Yuejia, and I'm the founder and managing director of Hub101.Earth, which is a global open access platform that shares knowledge and also spread the word about solutions for climate, nature, and people-positive movements. Today is a special day. We're kicking off our Conversations series in which we will talk to a bunch of really exciting people from all walks of life, fighting the good fight and bringing solutions to the fore from wherever they are, big or small, of all shapes and sizes. And what better way to start than to speak to Lewis Pugh?
Thank you.
Hello, Lewis. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being your first.
You're definitely the first. So this morning I was thinking, I can prepare an intro for Lewis, but I'm going to just ask him to introduce himself because you'll do a much better job than me.
Oh, okay. So I'm an endurance swimmer and I'm an ocean advocate. So I've spent the last 40 years swimming in the world's oceans, and I try to swim in places which are really threatened, and then afterwards I try to get them protected. So that's what I do.
So maybe we can start by, you clearly have achieved a list of some incredible feats, and which we'll come to. I'd like to talk about some of that. But maybe let's start from the beginning in terms of how you got into swimming and how you got into endurance swimming. Because that is, I'm an amateur swimmer myself, so I'm just curious in how you got into it.
So I went to school in Cape Town. Initially, I grew up in England. When I was 10, we moved out to South Africa, and I lived in Cape Town, and I was very, very lucky because my high school was literally on the beach. And so sport was often down on the beach. We'd play touch rugby, and then afterwards we'd go for a swim. And in the distance, I could see Robben Island. And a friend of mine had swum Robben Island, and so I also wanted to have a go at it, but I had had no formal swimming lessons. So I went to go get proper swimming lessons. I was woefully underprepared though.
How old were you at that point?
I was 17 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I went out to Robben Island, and then you got an escort boat next to you for the first hour, and it was very, very thin in those days. And the water's quite cold. Anyway, the first hour, everything was fine, but by the time I got to the second hour, it was starting to get really cold.
Yeah.
2.5 hours in, I was extremely cold. And then there was a lot of breaststroke. And I found out later that the team were actually taking bets whether I would get out. But eventually, after 3 hours, I finally put my feet down on that sand in Cape Town.
Wow.
And I knew at that moment that I had fallen in love with swimming. And it's a love which has lasted for 40 years. I just love swimming.
That's incredible. That is so inspiring that you started there and then. And so then maybe since then, clearly you've gone on to do some, run some incredible campaigns. And I thought maybe we would just go through them a little bit, not all of them, but, but so I created a list, and I have to read this off because it's such a long list.
Yes.
And I know you campaigned for both oceans and rivers.
Yes.
So maybe we'll start with oceans.
Yes.
So the ocean-based ones. And I didn't use AI to pull this together, so let's see if I missed anything.
Okay.
So you were the first person to undertake a long-distance swim in every ocean of the world.
Yes.
I'm going to look at you, and you're going to nod.
Yes, okay.
First to swim across the North Pole.
That's true.
Wow. First along the length of the English Channel.
Yes.
Which is incredibly long. The highest swim ever near Mount Everest.
Yes.
You went under or through an ice sheet in Antarctica?
Yes, I did a swim down a tunnel in Antarctica. There's a bit of air in the top of the tunnel, but it was...
I was just, when I read that, I thought, how on earth did you do that?
No, I wasn't holding my breath, but it's about as extreme as it gets.
Well, yes, clearly, and a lot of preparation, I guess, went into that.
And a lot of fear, yeah.
Well, absolutely. And most recently, you just completed the shark swim around Martha's Vineyard in eastern United States. Yeah. Did I leave anything out?
Those are the main ones.
Or the Red Sea, I think.
Yes, I swam across the Red Sea.
Yeah, so you see, AI, I should have used AI after all. And also the first person to swim across the Red Sea. It's correct.
Yes. No, that was an incredible swim because, I mean, I'll never forget the view underneath me when you swim along those coral reefs.
Oh.
They are absolutely beautiful. There's some of the most pristine coral reefs still left in the world. And you look down, and underneath you are sharks and rays and, you know, tropical fish of every sort of color and description, and the most vibrant coral. It's so precious. And so you imagine swimming right the way across, all the way along these coral reefs. What a joy.
Yeah, it's amazing. It must have been, I mean, you hear Red Sea as this beautiful destination.
Yeah.
But since you went all the way across it, you would have seen it in so many different phases.
Yes. Yeah.
So out of all of these incredible challenges, campaigns, just let's talk about the physical element a bit of it. Clearly, you talk about the Antarctic ice sheet that would have been very cold. Which one would you say was the coldest? I mean, they all sound really cold.
They're all cold. The North Pole.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so just to explain how cold that water temperature was, I just need to give you a range. A normal indoor swimming pool is 27. Mm-hmm. If you swim across the English Channel in summer, it's about 18 degrees centigrade. Now go all the way down to 5. That's the temperature of the water in which the passengers of the Titanic perished.
Oh, wow.
Freshwater freezes at 0. Mm-hmm. The water at the North Pole on the day I swam was even colder, so it's salt water, minus 1.7, 29 degrees Fahrenheit. It's unbelievably cold. And I remember standing there about to get into the water, and you do ask yourself, how did it get to me being here? But it was a long process to get to that point, to dive into that water.
Yeah, and you prepared physically and mentally?
I prepared physically, yes, an awful lot. Slowly, doing swims in colder and colder and colder water. But nobody had ever done a swim in minus 1.7. I hadn't either. I'd done swims in 0. But I hadn't done one in minus 1.7, and I thought to myself, okay, what's the difference between 0 and minus 1.7? Well, it actually turned out to be an awful lot.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can't imagine even what that feels like, even with a finger in it. But
it is. It's extremely cold, and you've got to want to be in there. But there's also this sort of mental preparation. And so just before I got into the water, my coach gave me 2 anchors. He said, the first thing I want you to do is I want you to go all the way back to the beginning of your life. I want you to turn around, and I want you to tell me all those moments in your life which have molded you into the person you are. And so I told him about moving out to South Africa. And then I was very lucky, my parents took me to a big national park called the Addo Elephant National Park. It was one of those moments in your life you never forget, because we were surrounded by this huge herd of elephants. And I remember being in the back of the car, and that's when my love for nature began. And then I went through other moments in my life. I was a maritime lawyer. I was involved with a case dealing with the Exxon Valdez, which was a ship which ran aground, spilt oil everywhere in Alaska. And then you realize how fragile the planet is. And then he said to me, okay, so now we know where you've come from. And now he said, now the most fundamental thing is, to prepare yourself mentally, I need you to go to the end of your life. I want you to turn around, and I want you to answer a very simple question, and that is, why did you go to the North Pole to swim, and what was your message? And I said to him, David, I had visited the Arctic for 5 summers in a row, and every single summer I saw less and less sea ice. Water was getting warmer. I wanted to do a symbolic swim there to really show world leaders what was happening, because at the time they were denying it. So it was a simple symbolic swim. You shouldn't be able to swim across the North Pole, but it really turned into a very, very tough swim. But it got a tremendous amount of media attention. It really sort of kick-started my life as an ocean advocate.
Yeah, absolutely. There are these incredible pictures of me making it through those waters, and now there's a perfect, time to actually go into why. That was my next question. Clearly, all of your campaigns has tremendous meaning.
Yes.
So, you've already mentioned one, which is the melting of the ice around the North Pole.
Yeah.
What else? What are the other reasons why you go on these great adventures and highlight these issues?
So there are a number of big issues facing our oceans. The first one is climate change. The second one is pollution, especially plastic pollution. I'm just seeing it everywhere. And the other one is just loss of biodiversity. And so over many years, I'm either doing campaigns talking about the climate, what's happening to our planet, or I'm talking about pollution, or I'm talking about loss of biodiversity. It'll be one of those three. Mm-hmm. And every sort of 2-3 years, I try to do one big swim with a simple message. The message has to be really simple. And I always hope, the standard is, could a kid or could a 90-year-old, great-grandmother or grandmother understand it? And if it ticks that box and it's simple, and it also has to be pioneering. I want to try to be the first, because if you're the first, you get the media attention. Mm-hmm. And it's got to be exciting. Yeah. Some of these swims are quite dangerous. I've got to get up every morning, I've got to train for them. If it ticks all those boxes, then I'm going to go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And your latest swim was the shark swim, which we've already mentioned, but yes. Tell us about that, because we followed your progress, and I have to say at some point I was a little bit worried about
it. It ended up to be a really hard swim. So it was the 50th anniversary of Jaws, the blockbuster, and I've wanted to do a swim to talk about how important sharks are for so long. And this was just a perfect moment, because sharks were demonized in Jaws.
Yeah.
It made it out as if sharks are out to get us, out to kill us. And, they're nothing of the sort. They're absolutely essential for a healthy ocean. Mm-hmm. If we want to have a healthy planet, we need to have healthy oceans. And if we want healthy oceans, we need sharks. Predators are essential. And so I decided to swim around Martha's Vineyard, the whole island, which is where Jaws was filmed. Mm. And what I thought would be challenging wasn't challenging, and what I hadn't anticipated, though, because we always train for the fact that you maybe have 1 or 2 bad days and you're going to have to swim in storms, but the first day was beautiful and flat. The last day was beautiful and flat. And for 10 days, it was just a solid storm. And so every day just swimming into a storm, and just it was hard work. And then the other thing which was quite challenging about the swim was we have always had a cardinal rule in my swims that we never ever talk about sharks. Because as soon as you start talking about sharks, you're going to start thinking about sharks. And then every shadow then starts looking like a shark, and then soon you'll be out the water. But on this swim, I wanted to talk about sharks. And so early in the morning, I was doing interviews in Australia talking about sharks. Late in the evening, I'd be talking to TV in Canada about sharks. Mm-hmm. Well, guess what you're thinking about the whole time?
Oh dear.
Just sharks the whole time. And so mentally it was a challenging swim.
Yeah, I mean, that film, unfortunately, it was so successful, and it did put this fear of the open water into many people.
Yeah, it was the music which was so effective. Yes. It was the original blockbuster.
Yeah.
But my message was simple, that sharks are absolutely essential for a healthy ocean, and they're really under threat. Mm-hmm. The numbers are frightening. It's on average, every single day, 274,000 sharks are killed around the world.
Wow.
I mean,
really?
It's a number which is so difficult to wrap up one's mind around, because you multiply that over a whole year, it's 100 million sharks. It is completely unsustainable. It's madness.
Yeah.
And so my message is that we really need to protect these animals, as with all predators.
Yeah, absolutely.
But sharks are the predator which has been demonized most in the world.
Yes, absolutely. And they're a key part of the entire ecosystem. So you take them out and everything's out of balance.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's akin to a lion in the savannah. Like, imagine hypothetically taking out all the lions. Suddenly then all the wildebeest and all the zebra and all the gazelles are going to be eating all the grass and all the bushes. And soon there'll be nothing left. And then there's going to be an ecosystem collapse. Yeah. Well, it's exactly the same in the ocean. You take out all the sharks and very, very soon you can have a watery desert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, there's so much to talk about oceans, but also we want to talk about rivers.
Yes.
Right? So rivers are a huge part of our of our identity, our source of life, right?
Yes.
Without water, there's no life. And you have also done campaigns to do with water. I believe you were the first to swim down the length of the River Thames.
Yes.
Right? Did you swim past Parliament and
Yes, I
give
did.
him a wave?
I actually got out there.
You did?
Yeah, it was an interesting story because I couldn't get permission to do it. And so I decided, listen, I'm just going to do it and try and ask for forgiveness. Anyway, so I got to Teddington, where it then becomes, the rules change, and it's then under the jurisdiction of the Harbour Master of the Port of London.
Huh.
And he said, you cross that line, Lewis, and I will have you arrested.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, really quite serious.
Yeah, that is serious.
And so I asked a couple of my friends who were also maritime lawyers, I said, is there a rule about this? And they said, well, there actually isn't anything in the statute book, but they said there must be a residual rule. Like, imagine if somebody is just lying in the middle of the Thames on a lilo. Surely they're going to have to be able to take the person out if boats are going to come past. Anyway, we got no permission. And then suddenly, the day before we got to Teddington, we got a message from the Prime Minister who said, please, I've heard that you're swimming down the Thames. Get out at Parliament and then come see me at number 10. And it was one of those moments in your life which is so joyful, because the harbour master then called me up and he said, Lewis, do I have to tell you, if you go past Teddington, I'm going to arrest you. And I said to him, it's going to look so silly because the Prime Minister has asked me to get out there. And I could just hear the silence on the other end of the boat. Yeah.
It's like, well, maybe you can take me to the Prime Minister in handcuffs and wear my Speedo and my swim cap and my goggles. That'll be quite a statement.
Yes.
Oh dear. Wow, that's amazing.
No, but
what year was that?
Well, I can't even remember now. It must have been sort of 2003 or 4, somewhere around there.
Amazing.
But I do love swimming in rivers.
Yeah.
And
and 2 years ago, you did you swam down the length of the Hudson River in New York State in America, and that's when we met. And I'm wearing the T-shirt today.
Rivers Alive.
Rivers Alive from 2 years ago, and so tell us about what you were trying to highlight on that campaign.
The Hudson is an amazing river because 50 years ago it was one of the most polluted rivers in America, if not the world. And then they started cleaning it up, and literally town by town, factory after factory, they started cleaning it up. And now it's an amazingly healthy river. Yes, still a lot more needs to be done. But I swam down that river over 30 days, and I didn't get sick once. Now, had you tried that 50 years ago, it really would have been life-threatening. And so it just shows how, proper investment and care for a river, you can restore life in it. And there was one moment on that swim, which I'll never, ever forget. It was about a third of the way down the river. So I started high up in the Adirondack Mountains. And it's amazing, just absolutely beautiful. And you've got bears walking around and a great big bald eagle just came out of the forest and just started following me all the way down the forest. And then I went into backstroke, and there it was, just following me down the river. And to think that just a few years ago they were virtually extinct there, it just shows what happens when you start caring for a river, stopping pollution going into the river. We can restore the health of our rivers, but it takes investment and it takes care.
Yeah.
And constant diligence.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's hope, right?
Yes,
so, things may look quite dire at times. Certainly you hear a lot about the problems that we're facing, which all seem, massive and very complicated and interconnected.
And overwhelming.
Overwhelming, yes. For any one individual or any one institution.
And also for the environmental campaigners and for the policymakers, it's overwhelming. But the bottom line is, we have no option. If we're going to have a world where you have clean rivers, fresh air, habitable planet, we have to take action. Yeah. And I remember doing a beach cleanup in Mumbai. Okay, and the pollution was, I've never, I'd never been to a beach where I'd seen pollution like this before. I mean, it was literally, when they started the beach cleanup, apparently it was up to the shoulders.
What?
Okay.
How?
I went there, and by that time it was down to our knees, but I walked down onto this beach and there was just plastic entwined and bags and just, I've never seen, and thousands and thousands and thousands of flip-flops everywhere. Anyways, I'd never seen pollution like this. And the person who was running it was a young lawyer called Afro Shah, who every weekend would go out into the community and get hundreds and hundreds of volunteers to come and start cleaning it. And I said, Afros, where do we start? He said, you start at your feet. You start at your feet. And it was amazing because that whole weekend we cleaned it up. We brought bulldozers in there, we brought lorries in there. We cleaned that beach until eventually we saw sand again. And now constantly, every weekend they clean at the beach, and now turtles are restored. The mangroves are being cleaned, but you have to start somewhere. And at your feet is perhaps the best place to start.
Absolutely, yeah, because you know where you're standing with your feet, and if you can pick up some rubbish right next to you,
yes.
Why not?
And one of the biggest mistakes is the belief that somebody else is going to solve the problem, that somebody else is going to do it. Don't wait for somebody else to do it. Every day have we left the world better than it was the day before. Yeah.
That's amazing. It's really inspiring to just think, everyone can be empowered to do something. Yes. I think that's one of the reasons, actually, I dived out of the corporate world and into the try to do something different world, where Hub 101's mission is really about, sharing and spreading the idea of solutions.
Yes.
And it doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be small. It doesn't have to be a certain size or shape.
Yes.
But as long as you have a go at it, and connect with other people facing similar problems or thinking along the same lines, that can all go in the positive direction.
Yes.
And I think I'd love to sort of just pick your brains now about you've been looking at and living this and breathing many of these problems for decades. And as you say, definitely start with your feet. Are there any other solutions or top priorities for action that you think is just needed that can just make a difference now?
So perhaps I can speak to the person who really cares about the environment, who's gone onto your website and wants to know, where do I start? I was very, very lucky. We're actually in this room here, and this room is called the Desmond Tutu room. He became the first patron of my foundation, and he was a very, very special person. He'd won the Nobel Peace Prize, and he had this ability to lift people up, and you believed that you could do whatever he said you could do. He just had this incredible gift. And before any swim or any campaign I was going to do, I'd get a little message from him. And it'd be something like this. I'd be going down to Antarctica to do a swim, and he'd say, Lewis, I want to wish you the very best with your swim in Antarctica. God bless you. So he was a bishop. God bless you, and give all my love to the penguins and the seals and the dolphins. Your father, the Arch. And when I got an email like that and I was en route sailing down to Antarctica, I thought to myself, because he had overcome so much in his life, he'd been the forefront of the fight against apartheid, I thought to myself, if he is telling me I can do this, I can do this. He passed away a few years ago, and a journalist called me up and asked me about how special he was, and I told him the story, and he said, it's unbelievable. So many people have told me that they also used to get messages from him like that. So he had what he was doing was, he was sowing seed. He was helping so many people and uplifting them, just messages of support. So find somebody who can be an inspiration, who can keep you going when you think, oh, I don't know how I can do another day. Find those people who can keep you going, lift you up, and get you going in the right direction. That's absolutely essential.
Yeah, that's amazing. That is incredibly powerful. Yeah, because I think there's...
Because it's tough.
It is.
It's tough.
It's tough. And especially when you're hit with so many... There's a lot of negativity swishing around.
You know, I don't live in La La Land. You know, I go down to a beach and I see plastic pollution there, or I could be high up in the Arctic, you know, and I walk across a beach and I see plastic pollution, which has obviously not come from here. It's come on an ocean current from a long way away. And it's bags and it's bottles and it's fishing buoys and it's nets and it's ropes. And then you see a polar bear swim ashore and climb out over this. And then you think to yourself, it can get really, I'll be frank with you, really upsetting, really depressing. And then you have to switch and you have to say to yourself, right, what can I do to try and clean this beach up? What can I do to go to the beginning where that plastic entered the stream? Who can I get to keep me going? Because otherwise you can, it can get you down.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
And I noticed on your foundation that one of the things that you're championing for is the expansion of the marine protection.
Yes.
The MPAs.
Yes.
How well do you think we're doing with that in terms of, you know, I think it was the global biodiversity framework includes protection of, this was so-called 30 by 30, right? Protection of 30% of the land and seas by 2030.
Yeah.
Would that be something great for our oceans if that came about?
It would be truly, truly amazing if we can get that across the line. I mean, it really would.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, we've now committed. So the vast majority of the countries of the world have committed to 30 by 30, protecting 30% of land and sea by 2030. And these commitments are very, very important. But we have to turn those commitments into actual action to get it done. And that's where the challenge is. Yeah.
And what do you think would help that along a bit more? Is it the individual governments and the local and maybe even regional policymakers need to be on board? What would it take? Because we got an agreement at the UN level.
Yes. Well, let me take you back to the beginning of the genesis of that, and I think that's a good story on how you can get things across the line.
Cool.
So, about 2,500 people have swum across the English Channel. So it's 33 kilometers. But nobody had swum the length of the English Channel, which is not 33 kilometers, but it's 528 kilometers. And so I decided I wanted to do a campaign to highlight how little of British waters were properly protected. And so at the time it was 7 square kilometers.
7?
7. So in the rest, you can drill for oil, you can drill for gas. Water companies can pour raw sewage into the rivers and into the sea. The Royal Navy and other NATO navies can do gunnery exercises. In 2018, just 7 square kilometers were fully protected. We had the beautiful nature. We have some incredible nature here in Britain, of puffins and whales and dolphins was left alone. And I grew up in Plymouth on the English Channel. And so I said to myself, I want to do a swim along the full length of this. Anyway, so I went to the start and I met, there were lots of TV companies that come down there, but Sky News said to me, Lewis, we'll give you daily coverage. So we will cover this whole thing for the whole duration of the swim, and every day we'll go off and interview different people. Maybe it's a fisherman one day, maybe it's a government minister the next day, maybe it's an energy provider, maybe it's a Royal Navy captain. We're going to use you to tell the story about this. amazing piece of body of water. Anyway, so I dived in and I started swimming along the coast. And every single day, I was saying to the British government, we need to properly protect it. 49 days later, okay, I finally arrived in Dover. And there to meet me at the end is Michael Gove, who was the Environment Secretary, the Environment Minister at the time. And he walked up to me and he, with a really big smile, and he said, Lewis, congratulations, we've heard you. I said to him, Michael, I wish you had heard me before I had to swim for 49 days. And I said to him, the science is really clear. The science is that now with climate change, we need to be protecting at least 30% of the world's oceans now by 2030 for them to recover. Anyway, he committed to me on the beach that the UK would go for this target. A month later, the UK went to the United Nations. They stood up, they said, we're going to go for this. Would other nations join us? And then one nation after the next joined them. And eventually now, 4 years later, virtually every single country in the world has agreed it. So what I never ever imagined that would be possible. So what it's showing is that public pressure, TV, people tweeting and blogging and speaking to their local MP all had a big impact, and it got to the Prime Minister. And the end result was that the UK stood up and other nations then joined them.
Did take you 49 days in the Channel, but
it took me
incredibly worthwhile though.
It really felt meaningful. But remember, a commitment is one thing. We have to hold them to account. Yeah, and so that's a role which I do, which is, trying to get each and every one of them to absolutely deliver on this.
Yeah, and to really act. Right?
Yes.
So it's one thing to talk, but another one to act.
And it costs money. Yes. It costs money, yes. But it's a great investment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, at a time when there's a cost of living crisis and governments are, finding it difficult to fund things, to ask them to fund protecting the oceans may seem like a luxury. It's not. It's an absolute necessity. I think the other big challenge which we face right now is just everything that's happening in the world. We have wars taking place, we have genocides taking place. The environment, just a few years ago, it really was so much more in the news, but it's dropped off the news. And so that's why I'm constantly looking for swims and looking for campaigns to try and bring it constantly onto the agenda so that we don't forget how important the environment is. You can't forget about it and try and solve it in 5-10 years' time.
Yeah.
It has to be done today and on a daily basis.
Absolutely. We have to keep it up, keep up the pressure.
Yeah.
So then speaking of the future though, so if you were to look ahead, what would you like to see in 5, 10, 20 years' time?
So 5 years' time, we get to 2030. I mean,
yeah.
I dream of a world where we see 30% fully protected. It would be such a great start, really. And oceans which are bountiful. I've swum in parts of the world's oceans which are still bountiful.
Mm-hmm.
I did a swim down in South Georgia where you have leopard seals and elephant seals and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of king penguins swimming around you. And to swim in places like this, to see a bountiful ocean, is so joyful and is so rich. I pray that we can restore our oceans to that type of level. Looking further ahead, I want to see young environmental campaigners coming through.
Amazing, yeah.
Yeah. That would be very, very exciting. And when it comes to environmental campaigning, everybody has their own different styles. Some people want to have direct action. They want to be very confrontational. Others want to try and seek consensus. Others are happy to paint, to do music, to do art. Whatever it is, I want everybody to have the opportunity and have a voice in trying to get the message about that we have one precious planet and we all have to work together. So I'd love to see that, and as a sort of the next big movement, seeing some really neat, interesting, creative ideas coming through to keep it up onto the agenda.
That's amazing. Yeah. I think this brings us pretty much to the end of our chat. I mean, I know there's a Native American proverb that says that, you know, one day we visited Calgary Zoo, took the kids there, and it was written on the wall, and I took a picture of it.
Yes.
You know, I just wrote it down. That says, "We do not inherit the earth from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children." So we absolutely have to be bigger than ourselves and think about our place on not just our planet, in this universe. You know, this planet is our home. We are here because of the conditions that allowed us to exist. And so we absolutely need to do a better job in looking after it. So here's really hoping that we can all help to contribute to this future that we want to be a part of.
Yes.
So thank you so much for joining me today. It was just so inspiring to speak to you always. And thank you for fighting the good fight, and we'll definitely be cheering you on whatever you choose to do next. Every 2-3 years, you said?
Every 2-3 years.
So we will see we can't wait to see what's next.
I got one in the mind already.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, you're not going to tell us. You can tell us later, it's all right.
I'll come and tell you later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again, Lewis.
Thank you so much. Thank you.